probably remember it. It was a bitterly cold morning in December 2024 when Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, was shot and killed outside his Manhattan hotel. Shell casings that were found at the scene were etched with the words delay, deny, and depose. They summed up what millions of Americans feel every day when they deal with their insurance company. United Healthcare is the largest health insurer in the US, and they have a denial rate that is double the industry average. They deny 1 in 3 claims. Gunning down the CEO of a company that you hate is a horrific act. There is no justification for that kind of violence. But this video isn't about that tragedy, and it's not about the man who shot him. It's about why that shooting resonated so deeply with the American people. Because it exposed the fear, the frustration, the helplessness people feel when a faceless system decides whether or not you get the treatment you need. We like to think that if we have insurance that we're covered. You do what's right, you pay the premium, you follow the rules, you stay in network, and yet your claim is still denied. In 2023, marketplace plans that you get through healthcare.gov denied 1 out of every 5 claims, in-network claims. Employer-sponsored plans are not much better, and even Medicare Advantage denies 15% of initial claims. You pay for coverage, but the fine print determines whether or not you get the treatment that you need. Hospitals spend $20 billion a year fighting denials by insurance companies. That's time and money that could be spent on treating patients. And remember, insurance companies aren't the ones to absorb that cost. That gets handed over to us. That is why our premiums are as high as they are. And for the people waiting for those decisions, it's not just about numbers. It is delayed surgeries, postponed medication, sleepless nights. I have good insurance, but when I broke my back last year, I was scheduled to have what's called kyphoplasty. Essentially, they inject medical grade cement into your back. The day before I was due to have that surgery, I got a call from my provider and they said my insurer wasn't going to cover it. The fact that I had been in a back brace for 3 months, that the fractures weren't healing, this wasn't something optional. I had to have it, but the insurance said no. So my service provider had to go back to them for a 3rd time and say, this is medically necessary. Her back is not healing, and if we don't have the surgery, she can't undergo the stem cell transplant. That meant waiting another 3 weeks to get the surgery. I was not a happy little chicken. Sometimes the denial feels personal. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are living with chronic or rare diseases. When surveyed, more than half of them said that their insurer had stopped paying for the drug that they need to keep their illness under control. 4 in 10 waited a month. Some of them waited 6 months, and more than 90% of them said that their health had been harmed or that they'd ended up at the ER because of those delays. Again, these aren't optional treatments for these people. These are people who did everything they were supposed to do, and they end up postponing surgeries and worse still, rationing pills because of the delays. I know how scary that uncertainty is. My chemo costs $23,000 for 1 jab. The medication that I take every day costs $21,000 for 21 pills. That's $1,000 per pill. Now, my insurance pays for the chemo and it pays part of the drug that I take every day. But every time I go to refill that prescription, they say to me, if your discount card does not cover the balance, you're on the hook for $5,000. That's $5,000 a month. Who has $5,000 lying around in their bank account? The same happens with scans. Many months after my stem cell transplant, I asked my oncologist, when is my next PET scan? She looked a bit awkward and said, I'm paraphrasing, good luck with that. Apparently, my insurer will not pay for a PET scan until there is proof that the cancer is active again. They won't pay for surveillance. You would think that catching a relapse early would cost less than waiting for that patient to get really sick again. But it seems that's not the case. I have no proof of this. It is my opinion and my opinion only. If you have incurable cancer, the sooner you die, the less they have to pay. At the very least, you are left wondering why your life means so little. The new gatekeeper is the almighty algorithm. In past decades, doctors and nurses were employed by insurers to assess whether claims were valid or not. Now there is a new player in the mix. More and more insurance companies are using AI to determine whether people in skilled nursing homes and rehabs can go home or not. In one case, a federal lawsuit revealed that employees at one of the biggest insurers were urged to use predictive software even when it contradicted medical judgment. That program did not consider whether the patient lived alone, whether they had a caregiver, or whether they had to climb stairs just to go to sleep. It looked only at data points like age, diagnosis, average recovery times, and then it made a call. Some of the patients landed back in hospital. Some of them lost their independence forever. The people who design these systems say it's about efficiency. But if you're the patient being discharged early, you end up feeling like a number on a spreadsheet. You are a number on a spreadsheet. It's all about deny first, deal later. Within the industry, that's not a cynical statement. It's a strategy. Internal audits revealed during congressional hearings show that these insurers expect a significant portion of the denied claims never to be appealed. Why? Because the process is exhausting. And these insurers know that most people will give up. Most seriously people are elderly, and they belong to a generation that is a lot more compliant than later generations. That is not a criticism. It's simply a case that they were brought up to not question what the doctor told you. And that bleeds into industries like insurance. Appeals take weeks, and you can sit on the phone for more than an hour. A lot of insurance companies don't have weekend hours. And no matter where you work, whether it is in office or elsewhere, no boss is going to be happy for you to sit there on a personal call for 90 minutes. In a world that uses email for everything, some insurers will only accept faxes. Who has a fax machine anymore? So you have to go and hunt for a place that will do the fax. You have to pay for it. And they know that it's just one more hurdle that deters patients from appealing. So people give up and insurers pocket the profits. The American Hospital Association says that about half of all denials get overturned, but only after endless back and forth with the insurance company. It is not just about red tape. It is about a system that is designed to make no the default answer, because they know that every unfiled appeal, every delayed payment protects their bottom line. The former chief medical officer of Express Scripts says, and I'll read it to you, "For some people, this isn't just an inconvenience, an annoyance, an aggravation. There's good evidence that these kind of delays literally kill people. It's a death sentence, and the only reason the insurance companies do that is to maximize their profits. The fact that they might be killing you is not in the equation of what they care about." In one case, assessors using predictive software to process claims allegedly spent 1.2 seconds on each claim. Now, the insurer denies those claims, but the pattern is clear. It's documented in federal filings. These are the mechanics of delay first, deal later. As if denials weren't enough, the networks themselves can cause chaos. In 2025, Johns Hopkins and United Healthcare failed to renew their contract after 8 months of negotiations. Overnight, tens of thousands of people in Maryland, DC, and Virginia found that Johns Hopkins, the hospital that they relied on, was no longer in network. Among them was a woman called Jamie, who was a double transplant recipient, and she was a mentor for other transplant patients. She told reporters, "These are real people, your mother, your father, your sister, who are going to suffer from what's happening. For patients like her, find another hospital isn't an option. Transplant programs are not interchangeable. Hopkins walked away because they said that the insurer was putting profits before patients. United Healthcare said that Johns Hopkins was overcharging. And while those two corporate giants argued, patients were forced to find new doctors, new hospitals, or in some cases pay out-of-network rates that they couldn't afford. Again, every time an insurer delays or denies, that's money that they don't have to pay right now. They may never have to pay. Regulators occasionally fine these companies, but the penalties are a drop in the bucket. A few $1,000,000 to a $22 billion company is a rounding error. And that's when people realize that the system is not broken. It is operating exactly as designed. If your doctor orders a test, call your insurer right away. Ask questions and put everything down in writing. Record who you spoke to, when you spoke to them, and what was said. When you are denied, appeal. Insurers count on the fact that you're not going to do that. Like I said earlier, more than half of claims that are denied are later overturned. Again, write down dates, reference numbers, who you spoke to. My dad always said the squeaky wheel gets grease. Be that squeaky wheel. It is a pain in the butt, but the alternative, paying out of pocket, is not something most people can do. And so a lot of them forego the scans. Most doctors and hospitals have patient advocates who deal with this kind of thing all the time. That is their job. Use them. They are part of your healthcare team. They know the codes. They know the loopholes. They know how to phrase things like medically necessary. Get to know them and use them. My provider has a department that does this automatically. I have never had to phone my insurance company in almost 2 years. Not all hospital systems, not all cancer centers are quite that efficient, but most of them can help you with the process. And if you're in a Medicare Advantage program, pay extra attention. A lot of these denials come from these particular plans. And remember that you can always request an expedited review from Medicare itself. If your medication is stupid expensive, find out what the pharmaceutical company name is and go to their website. A lot of them offer discount cards that allow you to pay zero copay. Use them. If they don't have one, find out what the generic is called and go to the generic pharmaceutical company's website. They may offer that discount card instead. And finally, talk about it. The reason these insurers get away with it is because people stay silent. The more these stories surface on social media, in communities, on local news, the harder it becomes for them to deny these claims. Your local news station has a tip line. Write in and tell them your story. Every news organization has slow news days, and you never know, they may pick up your story. Going back to that December morning, few people before then knew Brian Thompson's name, but they knew the words deny, delay, depose. Violence is never the answer. He was a father. He was a husband. But the fury that led to that act didn't come out of nowhere. It came from decades of quiet suffering. No one should ever be driven to those extremes by the system that is supposed to heal them. Nobody should go bankrupt because they get sick. And access shouldn't depend on an algorithm. If you have been denied in the past, you know how exhausting it can be. Change doesn't happen because these companies become kinder. Change happens because people refuse to stay silent. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for being with me on this journey. As always, please like, subscribe, or leave a comment, and I will see you in the next one.